All right, Ian, there's been a lot of talk and hullabaloo the past few weeks regarding the controversial Wata Games Grading Company in association with Heritage Auctions and alleged market manipulation and behind-the-scenes potential string pulling in order to inflate the graded game market the past 2.5 years that we've been covering, and Carl Jobst did his video on, and there might be a follow-up. Rumor has it that, he said it, there's going to be a follow-up with it. So in the midst of all this, we talked about things we've seen and heard, and I said I saw this guy named Mark Haspel at a convention acquiring these games at a couple 2.5 years ago, and Seth Abramson did a report that he had purchased a few games from this person without realizing it on eBay.
Yeah, so basically Mark Haspel was
co-founder of
Wata, said that basically the rule at Wata was that you cannot sell games if you are part of Wata.
If you're an employee, that was the direct quote from Dennis Kahn.
And I think that's where people are trying to find loopholes in this situation.
Sure. Oh, they're going to continue with that. So Mark Haspel, in light of Seth Abramson's coverage and maybe us reporting about it as well, he came out with a quote here. Get this on the tweet here, and we're going to run through this quote here. He was on a Facebook group, on the Wata Games Group unofficial. Certification has transformed vintage video game collecting considerably in the last 3.5 years. Discussions, first of all, I'll say it's changed graded game collecting. Discussions regarding video game certification, its purpose, and future are to be expected. Transparent dialogue is necessary and healthy for all participants in the video game collecting space. Yeah, great. It should be coming from your side, Mark. The dialogue from Wata. As part of this public discourse, some concerns have been raised regarding my involvement with Wata and the video game hobby. I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify my role as it relates to Wata. I was never an employee of Wata. There you go. He can get away with saying they never. Right. I was never employed by them. Yeah, you're a co-owner of Wata. I have never been a board member or officer of Wata, which is funny. When you go to the website, you see him as part of the executive team. Again, trying to splice hairs. You're on the executive team. You're an executive, but you're not a board member, but you're invested in the company, and you're a co-owner and you're a founder. You're trying to splice hairs here, but you're still involved with the company.
I want to point something out. I want to say something about that, though, and it not really being a loophole. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I saw Dennis at one of the conventions. Okay. I said hi to Dennis, and he said, I want to show you something over here. And I said, okay. He wanted to show me the case they were using for the Game Boy games.
Sure.
And I said something offhand about popularity, and he said something about, I said the price is going up, and he said something along the lines of, yeah, I mean, I wish I could, sell some of these. And I said offhandedly, I said, you can't, because I just wasn't thinking. It was a convention. It was busy. We were walking around, and he looks at me and he goes, no, of course I can't. He's like, that would be, bad. And so if he couldn't, what I'm getting at is if he said he couldn't do it, that would obviously extend to other people in the upper. Yes, it wasn't just for employees. It was for everyone. His statement was for everyone involved.
To you personally.
Yeah, that's what he said to me personally. And that, so
because he understood as a founder of the company and owner of the company,
that you can't,
an executive, that you cannot do insider trading, so to speak.
So Dennis was aware of that, and I mean, made that very clear to me, that day. And like I said, that's an obvious thing. That's not something that should be explained to anyone. But like I said, it was busy, and I wasn't thinking. So he was like, yeah, I can't do that. So that does mean, obviously, anyone else.
Let me get on this next statement. This is what fucking annoys me. I was a passive investor in Wata. Like other passive investors in the company, probably referring to Jeff Meyer, who was also getting in trouble for selling stuff from the Carolina collection, because he was an investor in the company. I never had any oversight role or made any management decisions for Wata. I've never been involved in the day-to-day operations at Wata. The appearance of impropriety is oftentimes enough to be improper. That's the point of this stuff.
Right.
And that's why Mark and others are now getting this backlash. They didn't think either people would care or they get caught, or a combination. The fact of the matter is you are listed on government documents as a co-founder of this company, a co-founder. a co-founder. You're a founder. You're an investor. You're not passive. First off, you're not passive if you are in the role you're on. You're as part of the executive team. You're on the website. You go to the conventions. I've seen you there to represent the company. You're not passive. Passive investor means, Ian, this is a passive investor. Ian, I'm going to give you $10,000 to make a fucking do a hot dog stand. That I have no input at all. I don't say anything to you about it. It's like being a stockholder in a company, like a public stock where, all right, Ian, here's some money. Give me my returns. That's a passive investor. The moment you are helping the company in any way, shape, or form, you're an active investor at that point. If you're going out and we're going to get to trying to promote the product, you are not passive anymore. That is a bullshit statement from Mark Haspel. I was listed in the Wata SEC filings as was required because of my investment in the company. Yes, you're a co-owner when you're an investor. I no longer have any equity in the company because of the sale to Collectors Universe in July 2021. That's irrelevant. This behavior has been happening way before that. It's irrelevant. It's happening for years.
Yeah, I would point that out. The irrelevance is kind of
it's irrelevant. And Jim Halpern said the same shit.
That's hand waving.
That's hand waving. Yeah, it's irrelevant. I'm featured on Wata's website to help market video game certification to collectors, investors, and dealers and other collecting fields. Doesn't sound passive to me. Does that sound passive?
It sounds like marketing.
That sounds like you're being active in promoting and helping the company. I attended various conventions with Wata to order to help cross-promote video game collectors from other collectible spaces. Yes, that's the first thing I've seen that. Yeah, I always said you're getting people from like comic books into this. Right. Yes. He came from comic books. He came from CGC. Like, this is where the people came from. This guy wasn't a video game collector. He was a comic book guy. I provided feedback to Wata when it designed its original holder and label. Yeah, very passive. I also provided my opinion to Wata before its launch on how components of complete boxes should be categorized and dealt with. Yeah, again, passive. You're helping form the company from the ground up.
Yeah.
It's not passive.
It's not passive.
It's ridiculous. I briefly visited the Wata offices 2 times. This guy is in videos saying he's a co-founder.
Yeah.
He's been in videos sitting next to Dennis talking about video game collecting. 2 co-founders sitting next to each other. And you're telling me you're a passive investor? Are you out of your mind? That's passive? So, obviously, I'm not pleased by this. I'm not pleased by this behavior. And there's more here as well. But I think that's all I really need to talk about here. He's also trying to say, like, oh, my return address was on every package. I didn't make it a secret, blah, blah, blah. He said he never submitted games to Wata any different from anyone else. He never requested or received information from Wata. Here's the thing, though. How do I know you didn't get that information still? I got to now trust you? The whole point is I shouldn't be asking these questions at all about someone who's a co-founder. If Dennis realized and told Ian that I can't be selling this stuff, why are you exempt from that? Why are you a special case? And when you say, like, I never requested or received some information from Wata, I don't believe you. I have no reason to believe you. I have none. Because you should have been doing this to begin with.
All I really have to add is something I've said to you. I think when this sort of stuff happens, people get excited and they want to see their name attached to big new projects. So they find ways to attach their names to these big new projects, and then they don't want the responsibility that goes with it. So they find ways to hand wave it when it becomes inconvenient. Well, if you are going to be listed as a co-founder of something, then you need to abide by those rules. You can't just hand wave that away later and say, oh, I didn't really do any co-founder stuff. Even if you didn't, you went out of your way to have yourself attached to the project as a co-founder. That comes with responsibilities.
You invested money in the company. You are a co-founder. You are as important to the company as anyone else. You are more vital to the company than someone they hire, as an employee. Because without you, the company wouldn't exist, technically. And now you're trying to tell me that you are passive and you had nothing to do with it because you got caught. You got caught, but the fact of the matter is, if me and Ian yelled about this a year ago about this, it might not have gotten any traction. It's because the video got 1 million views, and now a lot more people are onto this. Is now you feel need to make this statement. That's it. That's what it comes down to. And if you didn't get caught, you probably would have been still doing this, and you wouldn't have never put out a statement. That's the thing. It took a YouTube video with 1 million people watching it, and a journalist with 1 million Twitter followers. Doing reporting on this stuff for this to get to the point it's at. And when I see people try to make light of it, first of all, the most people making light of this are people that are invested in this. They're They are the graded collectors. And even some of them even say, oh, this is bad. They shouldn't be doing this. But it always comes back to, this is what the argument you see. You see, well, the prices would have gone up anyway. So it's like, we know it's bad, but the prices would have still gone up anyway. First of all, if you're invested into this market, I don't want to hear you because obviously you're biased about it. You're not impartial. And that's why it's so important that that video was made by Carl, first of all, because Carl isn't against sealed games. He's not against grading games. He just saw what he thought was improper, unethical behavior and called it out. It could have been for any other field. Obviously, it has to do with video games, but he called it out for what it was.
I do think prices would have gone up eventually, and I don't think these being expensive is the main problem. My main concern with this is that you create a market that looks alluring and you get people into it who don't know anything and they're at risk of losing lots of money.
Yes.
That's my concern. I don't really care how expensive these things get.
No, but the point is this. Do you get to this point in time if you do not have that $100,000 sale that made the rounds and all the articles about it that Rich Lecce and Jim Halperin and the third individual invested in, and then went on Pawn Stars to promote and had the guy grading it say, oh yeah, these games could be worth $1 million. Like right there from the bat, unethical behavior, we called it out. Do you have all this stuff happening if you do not get an article about some fucking dentist middle of nowhere starting an investment company in order to pump up the price of these? And that's not even, talked about in those articles as being strange or weird. Do you get to this point this quickly if that stuff does happen? Absolutely not. There's no way you get to this point in 2.5 years. You do not get to this point in time. I'll bet any amount of money on it wouldn't happen. You can't take a time machine, but you don't get here without these individuals propping it up. And that's the point. It's not like there weren't expensive video games before, but before they were based upon sort of a long tradition of what people were looking for, what was actually rare, what was coveted. Now there's no rules anymore. The rules are gone. The rules are gone, and now it's just what you think is going to be worth money. So yeah, it's a bad statement. I didn't expect anything less from there, because what else are you going to say? Well, I'm sleazy. Well, what else are you going to say? What would you say, Ian, if you got caught? Well, I'm sleazy.
I did an oops.
Oops, I made all this money, and I just made money as an investor, and the company was just sold. I made more money. Oops. I did insider trading. This form is like, oops. It's disappointing. And this is the beginning of it, not the end. That's my belief when it comes to this. There's a lot of money involved. I will also say this: Collectors Universe, who did the purchase of Wata in July, who also purchased Golden Auctions in the same month. Golden Auctions right now is auctioning off 2 pristine Mario 64s. I don't know what they're at. I don't care. We'll probably talk about it in a couple of weeks when they end. How do they feel right now with all this coming out? We never really talked about that. How do you think they feel after making that purchase of the company? Obviously, they believe in it, but did they know some of this activity was going on? Did they know that a co-founder was involved with this? Did they know that there was some stuff going on that seems shady, or did they not care? They just want to capitalize on it. That's what I would want to know. I'd love to be behind closed doors and at Collectors Universe to see like what their reaction was to that video and all this stuff coming out. I mean, they figured, no, we're just making money. We don't care.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's probably it.
And we're just going to ride out any bad PR, and that's it.
I think that's what will happen. I think that's their end goal.
And if there's a bubble that bursts, they still made their money either way, because again, they're double dipping. I don't know how this is allowed. How is this not monopolistic? How do you own both the grading company and the auction house that you put the games on from? How is that not like an antitrust thing? That's not for me to decide, though. That's not for me to decide. I mean, hell, they forced PayPal to separate from eBay. The government did.
Yeah,
because they're like, this is weird. You are using PayPal as your main service to pay for the stuff people are buying on eBay. That doesn't seem right. So the government can step in when this stuff happens. They can. I'm not saying they will, but they have in the past. They've broken up big companies because it's weird. You can control markets in ways that shouldn't. It's not free market capitalism anymore. That's the whole point. You are controlling things and wedging them in certain directions you want. You're nudging things in directions. That's the whole point about when we talk about collusion, is that it's no longer a free market.